I think we've reached a moment in Scotland where real progress is now able to be made, because we've moved away from a criminal justice, criminalising those people affected by substance use, to seeing it now much more as a public health issue and a human rights issue. And so the establishment of the National Collaborative as part of the National Mission on Drugs to take a human rights-based approach is very, very important, and that will lead to a process then of developing a Charter of Rights and an implementation framework, how they should be made real.
The change team is a group of people with lived experience of substance use or a family member of, and I think they've been sort of put together to be the sort of driving force in making human rights more sort of real for people.
You know, this is something, if somebody told me that this was something that was going to happen just even 5 years ago, I didn't think it would be possible. And as the process has been on, been working with everybody and building new relationships, I'm starting to get this mere desire for the enthusiasm to bring something that I can bring to this process, to bring in change to all our communities in Scotland.
Early days of the change team was just getting to know how we were going to manage the operational stuff, what the process was going to be, and then we moved for that on to hearing some case studies for other organisations, and then I suppose we moved for that to talking about how do we actually gather this evidence and what are we looking to gather, and then it moved into the community conversation part, which some of it was hosted by members of the change team. Other organisations hosted it themselves, started to gather the evidence, and that's what brings us to look at the first draft of that analysis report.
So I myself personally, I'm in Perth, so I run a Monday cafe there. So one of the things we done was have a conversation cafe on the Monday about human rights, and it was really significant for me that even in the first place, before we could talk about people's human rights, I had to actually explain what a human right was to these people so they could understand what we were fighting for. And it was really good just getting their feedback about some of the things, whether they felt that their rights had been met, whether they'd been breached. And so it was really good getting that.
There's a lot of voices, a lot of representation from some of the other groups that's more central belt, and certainly for me, I live in a rural, small community, and I'm keen to ensure that we're capturing all of Scotland, particularly our island communities and the far-reaching places.
The priority address will be access to services, and not only access to them, but services that are acceptable to the individual. So we maybe need to move away from the model that we're currently used to, where you have a community addiction team or an addiction team and you expect everybody to come to you because they want that service, and look at a model that actually looks at engaging people in the community, not necessarily in the addiction services, because a lot of these places are in buildings that aren't very welcoming and probably would be quite difficult to deliver a psychologically informed service.
And I think that's the important thing, that everybody has a voice. I've always known that, but coming here, doing this work, listening to the community, coming back and reiterating what they're saying, is making me realise that, yeah, everyone has a voice. We hear that all the time, but sometimes you need to hear your voice, to feel your voice, to see your voice, to say your voice.
And so we've been looking at the process of how over the next few months we will be developing a draft outline of a Charter of Rights, and then in the early part of next year publishing that for consultation amongst those who have already worked with us, to make sure that what we have got there reflects what they have told us. And then we'll also be working with those from the bodies responsible for providing support services and bringing them with us on this process of developing a Charter of Rights so that they understand what will be required of them to ensure that people's rights are met.
The main thing for me in terms of having a Charter for Rights is that it creates accountability across the sector for alcohol and drugs. So it's quite like multifaceted, but it's about recognising that actually individuals who are accessing services and their families and people who are affected by substance use have rights, and that actually there's legal frameworks in place to support that. I think as well it's really important for duty bearers, like the services that are supporting people, to have this Charter of Rights as well, and supporting them to deliver the support and the services that they do in a much more effective way that actually helps them and supports them as well.
So looking to 2024, what's next? Well, one of the things we want to do is to work with duty bearers to think about the implementation of a charter and to have some challenge and discussions around that. We also want to involve you in our further community conversations. So we'll be having them across the country, and you'll find information about that on our website. Please come and join our conversations and tell us, have we got it right? Are there any little things that are missing, any gaps, anything that we want to add into the Charter? Or actually just, is it the right thing? Are you happy with where we're at just now?